I guess the best race was the 75 lap race.
I'm glad it wasn't a points race.
Yeah, me too.
Let's just call it a good show. You know what I mean?
Well, it was strictly showtime. I don't think the race was that good, but I think the excitement of coming back to somewhere where we were in 1949, come back and see the improvements that they've done on the track. Also, just seeing the deal of how much the old fans really got excited about.
I think it's better off being here than it was in California.
It had a lot more following from the race fans themselves. Yeah. Okay, we came to the home place. My brother and myself were born upstairs in this house, so figured we'd just start this year off and just do it from the beginning of what the Petty crowd started at. And so we're going to do a little bit deal and talk a little bit about some more races.
Yeah, and I guess the first thing coming up, we didn't go to Bowman Gray, me and you, Richard, but we seen it through the eyes of television. And
yeah, we didn't see as much as what, if we'd have been there, we could have seen a whole lot more. I think there was a little bit, me watching the race on TV and stuff, I think they missed so much of the action. They kept staying on one or two cars, and them guys back there, fifth or sixth, they was racing, they was having a heck of a time.
But I noticed one thing, Richard, and men, you've talked about it before. When they kind of zoomed in on the car, they didn't have to zoom in much. You could read the number, and you could read the sponsors, and the sponsors on the grass and around the walls and everything.
Oh, that was good.
But on everything that took place, I want to give everybody an A+. I don't know how that.
It looked like it come off really good.
It did, and it was amazing.
The way they got in and out of the pit, the way they was on time, everything followed up. The only thing was, took a little time to get some of the wrecks off of the racetrack.
Yeah, when they had fluid. Yeah, that was a little bit longer. And then they had to red flag the race too.
But I guess the best race was the 75 lap race.
Yeah, I thought the 42 done good with the cars he was run against.
No, he done really good. Come up through there,
and he got,
and then he got in the front, and that 21 car hit him three different times.
And wouldn't turn him loose.
He didn't just hit him one time; he hit him again. In other words, he didn't try to spin him, and then he just going to knock him out of the way. But that was the end of that. But he come through there. Looked like the car was good. Like I said, I don't know how good he would have been against some of the other cars.
The top echelon cars.
But that particular crowd, he was as good as anybody.
Yeah. And I wish, and of course we couldn't, we wished that he got in and could have run against the better cars and see what would have happened. But, but when they made their halfway thing and went back there and stopped kind of in the dark, when we was up there, Richard, and you had to make a pit stop on your 100th win up there, and we gassed, it was dirt through there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
It was, and it wasn't. It was just kind of a path through there wide enough for a car, and now they've cleaned it out and paved it. I guess it's a parking lot now.
It looked really neat. You mean?
And
they've spent some time and money up there, and after. I watched the modified race they had up there, and then watched the cup race. And I got to thinking about how bad those guardrails used to be. They was just in and out. And I can see that once the modifieds and stuff start running up there, they're not going to tear up near as much the cars as they used to.
Yeah.
Because that safety fence is going to save some of those cars.
Some of them.
So it ought to really... for the Saturday night racing, or make the racing a lot better.
But still, yet the corner of the grandstand coming off of 4, it sticks out in the racetrack, and they didn't change that. But they redone the field house, Richard. It's been modified.
Completely different deal.
And then I guess they built a clubhouse
on top of that.
On top, and everything. Yeah. But
But the race itself was just a run. I don't know if I want to call it a race or not. The number 9 car won the race, and I think he did pass, 3 or 4 cars all night long. Once he come up to lap them, they pretty much got out of his way. But he was just running around there by himself.
Yeah, but
the big race deal was watching the 12 come up through the crowd without really knocking anybody out of the way. But by the time he got up to the number 9, I think he'd used his tires. He'd used himself up. So the number 9 just idled on the way.
That's exactly the way I seen it. And one of the restarts there when he was second, I said, he'll win the race. Mary was sitting there with me and watching, and I said, I didn't tell her, but I'm glad I didn't, because I'd have been wrong. I said, the 12's going to win the race. And then, but, okay, there was a 12, the 9, the 5, the 24, and the 48, and only one of them was any good out of the same team.
Out of that whole crowd. Yes.
And I don't know where it was, they're set up different or not, or where it was just driver, for that racetrack. But I think everything about the thing, and I'm glad it wasn't a points race.
Yeah, me too.
Let's just call it a good show. You know what I mean?
Well, it was strictly Showtime.
Okay.
And the big deal that I see that the whole deal worked. I don't think the race was that good, but I think the excitement of coming back to somewhere where we were in 1949, and come back and see the improvements that they've done on the track, but also just seeing the deal of how much the old fans really got excited about. And then they had a couple of their local boys that run in the race, and I think they give it more of a local flavor, even though it had a flavor from all over. Because we here at the museum, one day, it was Friday, I guess, there were some people from Washington State and some people from Oregon came all the way to North Carolina to watch the race. And there was just room for, 17,000 of them. So I don't know how they got their tickets.
But when they zoomed in on them, they seemed happy. But you bring that up about theirs from Washington, and did you say Oregon or where?
Yeah.
Okay. When it was over, I'm glad I was in my house on my couch, so I can only imagine what they felt. But no, it was a good show. And then, of course, that one's over, and we're going to call it a show. And I think it's better off being here than it was in California.
It had a lot more following from the race fans themselves. I think it was more of a race, a show race. Out there, it was just something, and I don't even think that the competitors got really excited about going to California.
Yeah.
But they were all really enthusiastic about coming to Bowman Gray.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they'll have it next year. I don't know how long they'll have it, but I went to the first one in the Coliseum, and they done a great job out there, Richard. I was really surprised about that, but I'm glad it's back in North Carolina. Yeah. But okay, this week we got
makes it a lot cheaper on all of it.
yeah. I just wonder, everybody that puts a show on, the only people that probably could have made the money was the people that done the work on restoring the racetrack. But we got the Super Bowl this week, and then we got NASCAR Super Bowl coming up.
Then we get serious with racing.
And then it'll be serious. Yeah.
And, no matter how people run it at Bowman Gray, it had nothing to do with the rest of the season. And even after we get through with Daytona, it still had nothing to do with the rest of the season, because the races is so much different than just regular racing. So it's interesting to get these two behind us and go ahead and get involved in racing. Just see who over the winter came up with the best solution to their cars,
or who winds up the luckiest.
Takes it all to make it work.
Yeah, and you went through a lot of that, and winning down there 7 times. Anytime you win at Daytona, it carries you all year, or it carries you your whole life. So we'll wait and hope for a good show at Daytona.
We're going to go down there and try to win another one. It's really hard to say. I thought about the same thing. How did we pass those cars? And our cars were a lot bigger, and they had metal fenders and stuff. So if you hit anybody, it knocked a fender against the tire and you was out of the race. So the people didn't have to be quite as careful. But overall, it's probably basically the same thing. To get by somebody, you probably had to give them a little bit of bumper.
Yeah, it goes back a bunch of years, but Richard won his 100th race up there in a Ford that night, and we had to make a pit stop. And I remember coming in behind that clubhouse, and it was dark, and of course Isaac tried to make it without stopping, but we didn't have the ability to run that kind of track like they got the transmission more for it and everything now. I think we had to run in second gear, and we had to tighten second gear where it wouldn't jump out. So it's just a different world, but you still had you bumping, and I don't remember having any fights up there.
Yeah, I think that the old fans appreciate where it started, but the new fans didn't know where it started, where NASCAR started. So I think it's when NASCAR brings it back to these tracks, it's bringing the history of NASCAR to all the new fans. So I think it's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, they done a lot of work at Bowman Gray, but I believe they done more work at Wilkesboro than they did at Bowman Gray to make it work. But the last race at Martinsville, it's one of the older tracks too, and we had the pleasure of touring it when there wasn't nobody there after the race, Richard, and it just looked different. But you can only imagine what it is now to what it was started, and it don't have to rely on history. It's making it now. But talking about Rockingham, it's really not that old of a track. It just come on board, and I don't even know why it went away, but it has, and maybe it will come back.
I don't think we need to run a short track with that short track for points, because the accidents and stuff can happen there so quick. If you notice some of those cars that got spun out, it wasn't the car right behind them, it was the car behind him. The third car would hit the second car, then the second car would hit the first car. So I think from point standing wise, it would be unwise. It'd be a disadvantage to trying to stay in the points, because if you try to be real careful, they're going to spin you out. So the big deal is, I don't. For myself, I don't think that we need to go that small.
No, I'm with Richard 100%. I just don't think the facility's set up to run a points race. I don't know how far away the trucks parked, because we didn't go and they didn't bring the pit crews, and maybe, but they got to have the pit crews, and that's at Daytona. That'll be a big part of it, and it can't be at Bowman Gray. There's no way. So I think NASCAR done a great job, so let's just leave it as is.
I guess I'm not a big Clash fan. Okay, you know what I mean? Because when people go there, they know it's strictly a show. It's not a race. It's a race to show. And I'm okay with just running 36 races, counting the points, and having a season. But the extra shows and stuff, we never really done good in them, because we never got that interested in them, and I'm still not interested in them.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Richard. It's like the 150-mile races Thursday at Daytona. We always used that to set the car up and prepare for the 500. Yeah. Did you ever win one of them?
I don't know.
But I think we learned a lot for the 500s, and but it's quite a show too, and it really I don't know. It's been going on forever, and I guess that's the reason they keep it. And NASCAR's real loyal to these old tracks and keeping the Thursday's race alive. When it started out 100 mile, then 125 mile, now 150. So they've come along with progress, and they'll be won the 13th at Daytona.